Hello and welcome back to Fourth and Fantasy. As y'all can see, we're joined by two special guests, Devy Dojo, Chris and Dustin, and we're going over college football playoffs and the potential 2026 players that could be in the rookie class. But that's enough of that. Let's get to it and let's have some fun.
Hey, yeah. I don't follow no script. I make my own lane. Got a spreadsheet mind and a red rash brain. Dynasty beats got that tape in my veins. While they drafting by names, I'm exposing their game. No cap. We study the craft like film room rats. Gyms in the fourth while they stuck in the past. It's levels to the dynasty. Keep or flex. From rookies to pros, we demanding respect. That's real. And I ain't never need clout for my clout to show. Just a mic I take and a team I grow. This ain't just picks, it's principle G. It's fourth and fantasy where you build your legacy. We 10 toes down, yeah, we still.
We're 10 toes down and we stand on facts. Y'all know what it is when y'all hear that music come on. I'm Hancho, and this is my guy above me.
Sirako, Kamirako.
And we are your fantasy playbook to more championship wins. And Rocco, where are we the land of?
We are a fantasy football podcast for Dynasty Sickos by Dynasty Sickos, but Devy is welcome.
Devy as well. I see what you did there, Rocco. And like I said in the intro, we're joined by two special guests, and this is the first time they are on Fourth and Fantasy. It's take too long. We need to have them on more. Dustin, Chris, how we doing?
Hey man, look, we're feeling good, man. Me and Chris were talking about this. Like, I can't believe that it's taken us this long to get on here. Like, y'all are the boys. Like, let's have some fun, man. I'm ready to talk some prospects, man. I'm pumped.
Yeah, man, we're always chatting in Discord. I know that you guys are some ball knowers certified. I love watching the stuff that you guys put out, so it's great to actually be on the show. And yeah, it's taken too long, but here we are. So let's not let the time slip away.
Time is now.
The time is now. And like we said, we're talking college football playoffs. I know there's a lot of people out there pissed off right now. You know who's not pissed off right now, though?
Oh,
you know who's not
here
pissed
it
off
comes.
right now, though?
Here it fucking comes.
You feel me? Go, how about them dogs, baby? Fuck Bama.
Man.
You know how we going.
I love that hat, too.
Appreciate you. Got it in Mexico. And my neighbor is actually a Bama fan, and it's been the absolute most beautiful few days for me, and just rubbing in the face. She hopped out her car after work, and I said, "How about them dogs?" She knew what time it was. She was ducking and dodging me the last couple of days.
Don't rub it on her face too much. You might catch a charge.
Listen, go. How about them dogs? You know, I have a couple good, friends that are Bama fans, and boy, I love the rivalry. I love, good college rivalries that really hit home for me, and it really makes you appreciate college ball. And it kind of goes back to the NFL with the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Commanders and the Giants, and that kind of rivalry. When you playing them, you kind of hate them for the most part. That's how I feel about Bama. So, yeah, when we got that devil over to them, go Dogs, go Kirby Smart. You know how we going. Even though they actually made the bracket over a couple of teams that people, and we're going to get into that a little bit, as Notre Dame, Texas were some notables that didn't make the playoffs this year. Actually, we can go into that right now. I want to catch y'all on that. Yeah, let's catch y'all thoughts. How do you feel about Texas, Notre Dame, of the likes being left out of the college playoffs this year?
I mean, for me, Notre Dame makes total sense, right? You lose the two biggest games of your season right off the rip. You're not in a conference. I mean, what more do you have? They played cupcakes after that, and sure, they dominated. But losing to Miami right off the rip and then Texas A&M, I mean, they don't really have a case. Sure, they have a lot of talented players. We all like Marcus Freeman. I wanted to selfishly see Jeremiah Love in the playoffs just for scouting purposes, but I mean, you can't deny it. I mean, you can't put them over someone like Bama. Look, I know you hate them, and look, them dogs whooped it on them. But they made it to the SEC Conference Championship. You can't take them out of that. That holds weight because the SEC, at the end of the day, it's still the best conference, pound for pound. Caleb Downs from Ohio State, he did transfer from Bama earlier, and he said, look, the Big Ten, you got like 3 or 4 games that you got to get up for. Every single week in the SEC is a battle. It's a grind. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, it speaks for itself, man. It sucks to not see him, but I do get it.
Yeah, it would have been fun to see Texas, man. You know, they're playing pretty well. I was talking on our recent episode about Arch and how he finished pretty strong on the year, so it would have been fun to see them included. Notre Dame, though, I think it's hilarious. I've been, retweeting. I've been talking smack to my friends that are Notre Dame fans. They just need to join a conference, and everybody always says that's a lazy argument, but it's just the facts. You know, you're already in the ACC. You just don't want to share your football revenue, which is obviously the biggest producer of money. So they're just being greedy. They're trying to have more pull than every other team. You know, even those other big blue bloods in the Big Ten and the SEC, they have more of a say because they're not participating in a conference. And that's kind of funny because that's the reason basically that the ACC tried to get Miami in over them. And Miami deserves to be there, but it's just funny that Notre Dame's not being there, especially because they're being whiners about not going to the Pop-Tarts Bowl or, come on.
Yeah.
Like,
So soft.
They take the fun out of football, man. Don't you play the game to have fun so your fans can watch you, and then you just don't want to play because you're having a sourpuss mentality about it? Like, get out of here with that.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up, where they came out and said, we are taking ourselves out of any bowls. Do not consider us for anyone. Well, first off, I feel like you make money while being in a bowl. So why would you just take your, and then the other aspect of it, for some players, this could be the last time they're ever playing football. Why not play in a bowl game, right? Just because y'all didn't make it.
Yeah. Even if the guys like Jeremiah Love and whoever else opt out, you got all these other guys who, have been on your team for 4 years that need an opportunity. And they said that, the team captains, but like, did the team captains really say it? The team captains don't really care what's going on in the grand scheme of the politics of the college football playoff. So
they just want to play.
I was in danger there for a little bit of starting to like Notre Dame more than I wanted to, because I really do think Marcus Freeman's a fantastic coach, a great man. But with this whole debacle, I'm back to just being a certified hater.
No, and hate as you should. Trust me, there's enough to go around. Rocco, I know you're not too tapped into college football, but nevertheless, when it comes around for that rookie class and what we're looking at, or the rookies that could be coming up, I feel like this quarterback class is somewhat has been talked about, or just overall, this 2026 class has been talked down upon, saying it's not the most talented. Can we just fast forward to 2027 so we can have all the superstars? But before we get into that one, I just want y'all to let the audience about just a little bit about the Devy Dojo real quick, how this came about, and what makes y'all love college football for the most part. And who's your team? Let them know who y'all root for.
All right. Well, I mean, it's fight on right here all day. USC Trojans right here. Grew up watching Reggie Bush, man, just dominate, and fell in love as a young kid just watching him dominate out there. And they took my man's Heisman, man, but they put the sanctions on us. But we're back now. We just had the #1 recruiting class, so big ups for us. But as far as the Devy Dojo, and I'll speak for Chris. It just came from that passion of talking college football. And for me, my favorite aspect of Dynasty was always the rookie scouting. And I thought, man, like I'm already watching college ball. I'm already tapped into the Devy streets and all like that. There's not a lot of people making Devy content out there. Everybody loves the rookie stuff. So like, why not get into that market? Why not enjoy college football and talk about it? And then we could still talk about the NFL side too. So Chris is a guy that I've interacted with a couple of years now through Discords and stuff. And I always liked his football takes. And I just approached him one day and I said, hey man, like, what do you think about starting this podcast with me? And of course, Chris jumped in right away, man. And we've just been making sweet music ever since.
Hell yeah.
Man. I got scouted. I got headhunted for this position, but it's been an absolute blast. It's gotten me more involved in some of the teams that I wouldn't watch typically. I do love the whole rookie scouting aspect, and that's the biggest edge in Dynasty, right? Which is why we're all here. This is a podcast for Dynasty sickos. And Devy's just a way to be a little bit sicker, a way to put your stamp on a player ahead of time. So I love doing the rookie stuff, and it's nice to get a head start by playing in Devy leagues and, obviously doing the dojo now and talking about these players. And I always came from a little bit more of an analytical background, and Dustin's helped me step up my film watching game a little bit more as well. So I think we have a nice little happy balance there. And that's what we like to do at the dojo, man, is just, divide and conquer as far as what makes a player good. It can't all be tape and it can't all be stats. You don't watch these games on a spreadsheet. So finding the right path to evaluate these players through a combination of what they're doing on the field and what they're doing analytically.
Man, I love that for your response on that one, because yes, Devy, for me, once again, this is my first year hopping in Devy leagues, but I've always been a fan of rookies, and there's haven't been a year where I've missed the combine. So when or going way back into where I was super into college rank or high school ranks, seeing where guys were going after they did their high school thing. I was so into that before I knew what Devy even was, and then I found out there's this whole new format of space, and it is a rising format. It's a rising. People are becoming more aware of it. It adds a little bit of a wrinkle to what is already a fun community that we're all participate in, and then it brings in the people who are huge college football lovers, right? I think, yes, NFL is one thing. Yes, we all have our, we go really hard for our teams, but there's nothing like a real like college football fan. They go batshit crazy for their
It's
school.
crazy, man. And I am jealous of you guys living in the South because obviously I didn't say it, but everybody that watches the dojo knows, and you can see from my hat, I went to Penn State. I'm a big Penn State fan. That's one of the best atmospheres in college football, but there's not a ton of those up this way. Columbus is cool and it's a good atmosphere, but it's a big city. There's something about that, the SEC or like out in the middle of Pennsylvania. You don't see anything for miles but a giant freaking stadium, and you just see people pouring in from all over God's creation to show up. Even if they're not going into the game, they're just tailgating, they're having a good time, they're there to support their team. And that's what I love about college football, man. It brings people together in a way that the NFL doesn't.
And I want to kind of circle back to Dustin talking about USC back in the day. I think that brought a lot of people into college football because there's so many stars, especially in that bowl game. Vince Young, Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart before he made it to the NFL and busted
Brian
out.
Cushing.
Just seeing Reggie Bush, in college, that made me understand what it meant to destroy an angle, because you'd see him running up the sideline and guys would have the perfect angle and he would just scoot right past them and make them look silly. That's when I knew that man was an alien. Kind of ahead of his time, man. I wish, he'd come out maybe in 2020, 2022 with the Saints. I think he could have had maybe like a Jahmyr Gibbs type career. Just a little bit ahead of his time, that guy.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think there was a recent discussion on Twitter where I think it might have been from Chev. I think I saw where there was discussion if Reggie Bush would have been productive in today's NFL, and I think that is an easy yes. Of way I don't even think he was used to his fullest potential, to where, and the league was still coming into its new passing era. So I think now Reggie Bush would have been damn near it would have been maybe Devin A. Chain times 2 in the way.
I mean, you see all of a lot of the top backs aren't, that prototypical 6'1", 220. A lot of them are, 210 and under. So I think he would have fit right in. And, I think if you'd have gave him more touches, he would have just produced more. I mean, he was a monster when he got a lot of opportunity in Miami. I think a lot of people forget he put up some huge monster seasons in Miami. So, just kind of sucks. He was just, 15 years ahead of his time.
Yeah.
And Dustin, I have a quick question for you before we get into the college playoffs. Is Mekhi Lemon wide receiver 1 for you? No bias or anything, but what do you for the 2026 have him as the wide receiver 1?
I do. So he moved up for me. I think you could go back and like my pinned tweet, and back in March I was saying Jordan Tyson, and I stood on Jordan Tyson for a long time. But I mean, even as being a big of a Trojan fan as I am, I didn't see this rise coming. And analytically, you could look at the tape, none of it lies, and it shows wide receiver 1 of this class. I mean, he could do it all. he primarily lines up in the slot, but 30% of the time he's also out wide. He does it all. He's comped to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I mean, he looks like him out there in the field. I mean, another former Trojan out there. So I'm well versed in how they operate, and I see the similarities almost every single Saturday. I mean, talk about a guy that could go up and catch a contested ball too. I mean, he could really do it all. He's a nuanced route runner. He's tough as shit out there. Like, I think it was against Illinois. Like he was fighting for a first down on a key third down, got hit, his helmet came off, and boy was still out there just driving and trying to get that first down. And he got popped too without the helmet, and he just got right back up smiling. And I'm like, that's my guy right there. That's when I knew, like, that's him. That's him. So yes, long answer short, Makai Lemon, wide receiver 1, book it.
Hell yeah. And I was right there with you with Jordan Tyson as the wide receiver 1. Right now I have Carnell Tate as my wide receiver 1. I love his game. I think I think he is the most complete receiver in this class. Most polished receiver in this class. But Lemon has actually very grown on me. And don't get me wrong, I had a little bit of animosity against Lemon because he caused my boy Zachariah Branch to have to go another direction. Even though he went to the right team and he's helping us do some wonderful things. I think with Branch gone, it has let Lemon shine a lot more.
Yes.
And honestly, even though he plays a lot of in the slot, I think he has one of the best flex where he can play outside, he can play inside, and win at both, and be great at doing both. So if you're an NFL team, you don't really have to worry about can he play inside, can he play out, or pigeonhole to one position. If you need to move guys around, he can be moved around, right? So I like me some Lemon, even though you guys run and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys run like an air raid type of offense, right? So it's in a way of y'all, I'm more of a passing team, if I should say.
Yeah, for sure. Riley runs. I'm not sure how you quantify it. It's like a spread RPO type of system. When it functions best, it has a really good running game. Which, I mean, this year we've had a really good running game that Lincoln Riley really hasn't had since he's been the head coach there. And you start to see that full complement now and how it facilitates the passing game on that, because they do so much motion and so much eye candy in the backfield that it just leaves defenders like frozen in place. And they go like, okay, I got my eyes over here and I got someone motioning. They're faking this way. Where's the ball? And that's really what the entire offense is predicated on. And I think that's why you've started to see more success, because he has guys that actually fit that system now. You know, when Caleb Williams came in for us, it set us ahead a little bit because, I mean, he was putting the team on his back and we were winning games that we shouldn't have. I mean, every game was like 49-48 if we were going to win it. And this year you started to see a more complementary team. So I'm excited with where the future is going. Hate to see Lemon leaving, but we got my guy coming in as a big time recruit, Mr. Ethan Booby Feaster. Anytime your name's Booby, man, and you play football,
listen,
you know
that's not like a guy I'll listen to anyway. Like, sign me up. I might come to your college right now, coach. I'm playing on the field.
Booby Feaster, man.
I get behind boobies in the front too.
Hey, listen, I'm trying to tell you. So
we used a trigger word.
Love that.
So with you being a USC guy, that means you kind of or already had some good love for Woody Marks, who's having a very serviceable rookie year for the Texans. If not, is their starting running back now.
Yeah, he is. I loved Woody. Like he came in for that final season after transferring in, and he was a guy that was just tough as nails again and could do it all. He was one of our best pass catchers too, out of the backfield, and always seemed to make a play happen. And you've seen that skill translate down to the NFL, right? I think he just had a receiving touchdown now. Not always as efficient right now in the NFL. I blame a lot of that on Houston's offensive line, but I mean, he's gritty and he's tough and he gets the job done. And I think you've seen that kind of boil over to the rest of the team. I think he's brought a little bit of toughness now to that backfield.
Oh, yeah. And if we have any other quick little hits, we can move over to the college football playoffs, which is a wonderful time to be alive for me. My Georgia Bulldogs, we have a bye, so I don't got shit to worry about for round one and getting bounced out early. But we do have, I think, in a grand scheme of things, since this new college playoff format was introduced, I've enjoyed it, and I still think you get some pretty good games out of it. And the teams that made it, people are happy. I'm glad there's a good portion of America that are happy to see Alabama in there. But out of the whole playoff so far, what are or who are some of the players that you're particularly looking at to, for the 2006 year? And I'll let you go first, Chris.
Yeah, well, one guy I wanted to highlight a little bit, because you're probably only going to get one game out of him, is JMU's Wayne Knight, who has been sneaky, very, very good this year as a running back. He's actually third in the country in all-purpose yards and seventh in yards per carry. He leads the nation. Well, he's tied for the lead with 7 runs of 40 or more yards. So he's tied with Jeremiah Love and Ahmad Hardy, who, if you do any Devy, those are 2 of the
Hardy's
best
my
names
boy.
to own. Absolutely. He actually had the longest run of his career last week in the championship game against Troy. He had a 73-yarder, and it was a beautiful, beautiful play because he got hit at the line of scrimmage by not 1, not 2, but 4 guys laid hands on this man, and he plowed through them all and just went house. It was awesome. It was a great play. I'm sure it's all over Twitter. If you haven't seen it already, go check it out. Not to mention he's got the same name as the character from Jurassic Park, Wayne Knight. So there's a lot of memes out there with him involved as well. But he's fun, man. I think I don't know what his long-term status is as far as playing in lower competition and if that's going to translate. But he's one of the types of backs that I would want to, or put my stamp on, I guess, to see succeed at higher levels, because he does have that strength, the ability to plow through people, a little bit of breakaway speed. But when you got that low center of mass and great contact balance, when you can do things like that highlight run where you just nobody's taking you down, you got that mentality to just keep going. That's what you need out of a running back, right? We talked about the differences in old school versus new school running backs with Reggie Bush. But if you can plow a guy over, that's going to translate to any season of football. So he's been a lot of fun to watch. He's going to be on my radar for sure in the game against Oregon.
Yeah, I think physicality just will always translate. I think we were talking about this in the Discord the other day. Like, you could be the more talented team. Like, obviously, we all play fantasy, so we like looking at our studs. But at the end of the day, it's football. Like, you just got to go out there and hit somebody, and that physicality is always going to translate. If you want it more than the other team, man, you could get it. And so guys like that are always going to be valuable for your teams. And man, Wayne, that's probably like the only guy I'm really watching for them, Chris. But as far as Oregon,
same basically.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Oregon though, right? Like, we know they're probably going to dog walk them, but for me, guys, there's 2 guys on Oregon that I'm really watching. The first one would be tight end Kenyon Sadiq. Now, I mean, I'm sure you guys have started to hear about him, because now when you talk about freaky athleticism, that's my boy Kenyon Sadiq out there. He just looks like a little musclehead out there who's probably going to run a 4.4, if not I think he has that level of speed out there, the straight line speed. And I mean, the targets that he's getting out there, because of the injuries that have happened to all the wideouts out there, you've started to see him accumulate more volume now and really start to take over. Some podcasters were calling him out, talking about Todd McShay. They're calling him out and saying like, "Hey, where's Kenyon Sadiq?" They said that his practice habits weren't the best. I think he just went out there and dominated my USC Trojans, man. That game, it was a hell of a game, and he just went up there in traffic over 2 defenders, and he said like, "This shit's mine, right? Like, I'm gonna take this to the crib and I'm gonna score. We're dunk on you a little bit." And that's when I knew like that dude might actually be him. And he has a potential to be a first rounder. So he's somebody that I'm circling as one of the few targets remaining for Dante Moore. Now, we might get freshman phenom DeCorian Moore back out there. I'm assuming he'll be able to play. So maybe he won't get as much like concentrated attention from the defense now. But with Kenyon Sadiq now, like out there, it's really opened up the offense. So I'm excited for him, definitely. And then, of course, we all know about Dante Moore. As far as my rankings, he is quarterback 1. However, the conversations over the course of this season were Dante Moore is likely to return back to school, but his offensive coordinator, Will Stein, just took the head coaching job for Kentucky. And so I'm thinking like, look, you have nothing left to prove. You've put so much on tape with his clean mechanics, the velocity that he's able to put on these balls, and just his elite accuracy and ball placement. He's your prototypical pocket passer, right? He has functional mobility in the pocket. Like if pressure, bears down on him, he can get a first down like he did to Chris's Penn State earlier in the season. So I'm looking at it and I'm going, why would you stay and take the chance that your next offensive coordinator isn't going to work out? Go make that life-changing money in the NFL. You're likely to be a top 3 pick at worst. And let's go see it. And so he would be my quarterback one, and somebody that I'm watching with much anticipation, because I think they're going to be on a collision course with Indiana eventually in a rematch from an earlier game that we had, where of course Indiana did beat Oregon.
And we'll get to Indiana, because you know how.
Question for you, Dustin.
You know how I feel about Fernando. But
there we go.
If Simpson and Moore and Fernando all come out, who do you think gets drafted first?
I think now I would have Dante Moore ahead of him, but I think that Fernando Mendoza has talked his way into number 1 just because of the performances that he's put on. I mean, he's talked about the band of misfits that they have out there in Indiana. And I mean, he's just a tough son of a bitch out there. I've talked about that on the pod a lot. The hits, look, the last game that he just had against Ohio State, was it the first play of the game? Boom, dude gets knocked out and he's laying there. He goes to the sidelines for a little bit and comes right back out and leads his team to victory against the most talented roster in all of the country in an epic comeback fashion, which he's done multiple times this season now. That's been the storyline of his season. Penn State, that drive that he had against you guys, that game-winning drive, he has that clutch gene, and I think that translates. Do I think he's an elite talent overall? No, I don't think he has an elite arm. I don't think he's an elite runner, but he has that grit and he has that heart that I think will translate. And just listening to the guy talk after games, the passion that he plays with, the way that he amps his team up, I think that scouts and general managers are going to fall in love with that. And so ultimately, I think that Fernando Mendoza would be the 101 in the NFL draft.
I have a question. One of my favorite players, I joined a C2C league this year, and I actually picked this guy off of waivers, but he's also a tight end. What do you guys think about Michael Trigg, and does he compare at all to Kenyon Sadiq? How would you have those guys kind of lined up?
Yeah, I love Michael Trigg, and he's had a long path to getting to where he's at now. He's been on people's Devy radars for several years now, but I have them both 1 and 2. I do have Sadiq higher because I think he's pretty much a lock to be the first tight end taken in the NFL draft, and I think his game is more well-rounded. So he's going to be on the field quite often. I think he's a little bit more capable blocker and, doing those things that are not necessarily just catching passes. But I think the higher ceiling is within Michael Trigg. He's an absolute dog out there. He's made some insane highlight catches, some, sideline grabs, some toe taps, some one-handers. He's just really putting it all together this season. So I think he's got the potential to be a steal in not only the NFL draft, but also in Superflex and, tight end premium leagues. If he falls in, like we saw this last year with guys like Fannin, who ended up being, late second rounders, third rounders, there was a bunch of those tight ends who just got picked up after Warren and Loveland left. If there's a chance for him to go in the second round into these drafts coming up next year in Dynasty, he's going to be a steal, I think, for people.
You know what I thought was hilarious? And before we cut to a quick break from our good friends at Lee Champ, I thought it was hilarious. If y'all remember the time in the offseason or during the draft process where everybody was on or on Harold Fannin Jr.'s back because he didn't test too well. Now we're saying, does that matter? Because he literally just put up 100 yards on them boys this previous weekend. For me, it throws into how quickly people get prospect fatigued on certain guys. You can nitpick and from what Dustin kind of spoke on this earlier in the episode of where, yes, you look at the analytics. That tells you one part, but then the film tells you another part, and then athletic testing will tell you another part. But everything is not one piece is the end all be all. You can be, yes, does athleticism play a part in a position, particularly for the tight end position? Yes. But you also saw, if you looked at the film, that boy can play ball, right? No matter if it was for a Power 5 school or a lower school that he went to, the kid could play, right? So that just goes to show that, it's not all about those top guys. It's not all about being the ultimate tester. Some guys just know how to play football, man. So
Yep.
that's why.
And those are the guys you take shots on,
Mhm.
right? If you feel convicted, we always talk about trusting your
Trust your
training
training.
at the Devy
Trust your
Dojo.
training.
So if you really feel good about a player, just take him, because you're going to feel better about it if he hits, and you're not going to feel too bad about it if he misses, right? You don't want to talk yourself out of a guy whenever you have strong convictions towards him. So it doesn't matter where he played or where he lands, all that fun stuff, because nobody thought Cleveland was a great landing spot, right? But he's balling out right there. He pretty much immediately nudged Njoku out on the majority of snaps. I don't know if he's playing the majority, but he's lining up mostly in the slot.
Mhm.
He's lining up more as a wide receiver than a tight end. He's got that Jimmy Graham type role. So it's been fun to watch him. So, and I admittedly didn't have him as high as Dustin did coming into the year. So I probably have less shares than Dustin does, but I'm very happy with the ones I do have.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was my tight end too.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Rob.
No, I was just saying, he was my tight end too before the draft. Because I loved his film.
Yeah, it just goes to show that, even NFL general managers, they screw up just as much as we do as dynasty managers. I mean, look at Amon-Ra St. Brown. Everybody knew that guy could play, but he underperformed a little bit at the combine. Harold Fannin underperformed a little bit at the combine, and they end up being 4th-round picks. Absolute studs, really good at football. So, yeah, draft capital is a part. Testing is a part, but can that guy really play football? And that's what you really have to weigh, especially when you're making 3rd, 4th-round picks. Like Chris said, that's the guys you really want to stock up on and take chances on.
And one last note before we cut the break on Keon Sadiq. For me, what he reminds me of, or what he can be, is today's Vernon Davis. Just a little bit slower. Not because Vernon Davis was legitimately running like a low.
He was a fast guy. Yeah.
He was running in the 4.3s. But I think he could be in the mold of that play if everything goes well. For sure.
Hopefully he doesn't get tackled by the wiener as well.
Oh yeah, me too. That's another way to get hurt.
I was just talking about Vernon Davis the other day because, with Zach Ertz going down, unfortunately, with an ACL, you got to think it's probably over for him. And I was like, man, between him and Vernon Davis, those are probably the best 2 tight ends we're going to see of this last 15, 20 years that won't make the Hall of Fame. Like, they're certified Hall of very good tight ends, and they were so much fun to watch. And I don't think either of them's destined for Hall of Fame, but they're in the Hall of the streets will remember you.
And Zach Ertz, we can respect all you done for you done with my fantasy teams. On top of that, and now for all the Benson Nut truthers out there who've been waiting for that.
Yeah,
Benson Nut, let's go.
Who've been waiting for that moment?
Better not be John Masturbates, that's for sure.
But we're going to cut over to Lead Champ real quick, where you can win a free NFL jersey every week by being the #1 ranker. Previously, Chef, our guy, won this past week. Shout out to you, Play, on your win. I wanted 2 jerseys the previous week, and we got Rocco here with his 4 for 4.
Chris is a winner as well, and he's the highest.
I just got mine in the mail
ranker
this week. It's beautiful, nice Kelly Green Saquon jersey.
Okay.
Fantastic. Yeah, so I can attest that these are real jerseys that you can get for playing for free. It's a lot of fun. We talk a lot of smack too.
A lot of smack.
Let's get it. And here is Lead Champ. I told
Little
Eddie
league champ
every time
tramp.
I come on, it get me do. I swear.
It's a great beat.
I'm telling you, but we're back at it. Fourth in fantasy with Devy Dojo. And we're talking about the college football playoffs and players that we're keeping an eye on. A player that I would like to actually bring up because he's actually has gotten a little bit of negative, a little bit of negative news. I won't say negative news, but well, for my neighbor, she's pissed at him because he hasn't. She said he could go back to being 17 because that's when he was balling. Who am I talking about? Ryan Williams himself from
Oof.
Alabama, who didn't have the best game in the SEC championship. What's going on with the lad? What's going on with the boy? I think he's regressed this year from his freshman year breakout. What do y'all think over there? I'll let you take this one, Chris.
Oh yeah, I know Dustin's got this locked and loaded, but I think we all had very, very high expectations for him this year, and ultimately what it comes down to is he's just dropping the football, man. It's not looking pretty out there. I don't know, if it has anything to do with his youth, where he's not really faced a ton of adversity yet, but the fact that he's got a new quarterback this year, and this new quarterback seems to love Jeremy Bernard, who's a great and talented wide receiver. I think he's going to have a productive career in the NFL as well. But he's really just taken over that locker room as being the number one receiving target for Ty Simpson. And he has the trust in his quarterback that Ryan Williams has not been able to carve out. So I think the future is still very, very bright for this young man, but it's just been an ugly season, and it's sad to see because it's the expectations were so sky high for him. And I know that Dustin's done a lot of conversations on this guy, so I'll pivot to him.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Williams, like you said, Chris, it essentially comes down to the drops. Against your Dogs, Huncho, earlier in the season when Bama managed to beat you guys somehow, Ty Simpson had Ryan Williams open on like a little go route, wide open.
Yep.
And he, for whatever reason, he just couldn't bring it in. In the SEC championship game, too, in the corner of the end zone, Ty Simpson had him, and he just couldn't bring it in. The broadcasters were even saying he's never really been much of a hands catcher. And at that position, that's what you have to do. It's like our guy Josh, the Shinobi for the dojo, who does some kind of like behind the scenes work, did a big breakdown on him and said, like, I don't know if he sees the ball. I don't know what he's doing because he can't catch. 8 drops on this season. It's among the worst in the country. And he had 7 last season too, right? Even when he was balling out, pirouetting against Georgia, doing all of his stuff out there on the field.
Don't remind me.
hey, look, it was a great play. It's what made me comp him to Lynn Swan. That ballerina ability to go up, and it, like I've said on the podcast before, it looked poetic the way that he was able to tiptoe along the sidelines and make these catches.
Agreed.
But none of that matters if you can't bring it in, and none of that matters if you don't have the trust of your quarterback. And I think that's what's happened. I think like in the Iron Bowl against Auburn, I don't think he even had a target. I know he didn't have a catch. And again, I think it speaks to that lack of trust that he has with his quarterback and with his head coach. And so because of that, I fully anticipate Ryan Williams to eventually enter the transfer portal. I'm just waiting for the news to drop probably after this playoff run. And we'll get to see if maybe, he could go to a spot and develop his game, because the good thing about that is that's something that's coachable. That's something that you can fix in your game. Oftentimes it just comes down to concentrating and looking the ball completely in. So, I mean, all the other talent, all of those other things that made him such a tantalizing Devy darling are all still present within his game. Like he still flashes that ability. He's just got to learn to bring it in. And I think ultimately he's going to be fine. But yeah, absolutely. His stock has dropped pretty tremendously. At one point, I think this time last year, we were saying Jeremiah Smith is right here and Ryan Williams is right there, right? They both made the cover of the college football video game. And it was like, these are the two cornerstone studs that are approaching the draft in 2027. And now we're looking at them like, I don't know. It's Jeremiah Smith is leaping bounds above everybody else right now.
Yeah, I would say people were taking Ryan Williams and rookie right literally after Jeremiah Smith, right? And then what I kind of want to get a little bit more on that angle of what do you think is with Ryan Williams? Because some would say Ty Simpson as a passer is a better passer than Jalen Milroy was last year. So what is it? Is it just that the chemistry between the two is just made Ryan Williams in his head? Some say Ryan Williams needs to bulk up, but then you got Devontae Smith out there they're roughly around the same body frame. So
Mhm.
do you see that just Ryan Williams just needs to mature up? He just needs to keep growing. With Jeremiah Smith, he kind of already had the NFL body, if you will. But with Ryan Smith, he honestly you can bully him a little bit once you get into his body, and now you go throw into where he can make those acrobatic catches and move his body. But like Dustin said, can you do phase 2 or phase 1? Catch the damn ball, 2 do the Cinderella stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think when
the
you're
Georgia
playing
Cat.
wide receiver, like there's a
Go
lot that goes into that. It's you're running your different routes. You got to know all the plays and know what you're doing on any given moment. And if you get thrown off, I think that's why you see so many of these alpha dogs at the NFL that have that mentality. There's always that tweet that goes around about a fake wide receiver tweet where it's like the enemy will talk kindly to your face and has the knife behind their back or whatever. It does
Yeah.
feel like the best receivers have that mentality, because when they're playing the game with so many moving parts and playing the position that they play, if any of that gets thrown off for them and they get in their own head, it can result in a lot of issues. And when you're out there flying around with defensive backs and linebackers coming at you, it's really easy to make a mental misstep and drop the ball, or maybe you don't want to catch it because somebody's bearing down on you. So you really need to get your mentals right to play wide receiver, and you have to have that mentality like, I'm a dog, I'm the alpha, I'm the man out here. That's why we see AJ Brown get so pissed off whenever he doesn't get the ball, this year in the NFL. So I think that it's probably just a sign of him. I think maybe you're right, Dustin. A change of scenery would do great for him, because get a reset, take a break, focus of the offseason on just catching those damn passes, and then learn a new playbook, be a little bit more, more of a headstrong mentality.
And Alabama, they have Oklahoma first round of the college football playoffs. I think that should be a fun game. They played each other already, where Oklahoma came on top and beat Alabama, and they have Oklahoma with one of my favorite quarterbacks coming into the season with John Mateer. Now, have things been sexy, groovy, beautiful as of late as they started off as the season? No. I think it's gotten a little tough to hit little bumps along the road, and his stock went down a little bit. I'm not all the way out on him. I still think he can be a serviceable player. But what are y'all thinking or how this game should be? When we're talking about alpha dogs, if you will, once again, I want to see what Ryan Williams does. I honestly, one of the players that I selected in my Devy drafts happened to be Jaden Ott, who hasn't done damn shit after the transfer. I'm almost kind of pissed. What happened with that whole situation? Y'all talk me off that ledge real quick. Or should I be concerned?
Yeah, Jaden Knott's a dead asset in my mind. Like, transferring from Cal, I think we all saw the receiving utility that he offers, and we're like, all right, like this is going to be the guy out there. And then we didn't see him. I think week 1 he was like 3rd on the depth chart, and they said it was injuries and this and that. And then I think other people just took over. Like, he just couldn't get on the field. I don't know if that's a practice thing. These type of situations in college, they remain a lot more hushed. It's not like the NFL where you have the constant reporting, and so we really don't have many answers. But what we can, with the information that we have, I think we can pretty safely say, like, he just fell off, and he transferred up to that SEC level of competition, and I think the lights were just too big for my guy out there. So unfortunately, that is part of Devy. It's a very cruel game, because you could be so high on these guys, and before you know it, they're a dead asset, and they're transferring again to a lower level program. It happens a lot, and it humbles you, but it makes when you hit that much sweeter. And a guy that was looking like he hit, and you kind of alluded to this, was John Mateer. And I don't know if there was a bigger fan out there of John Mateer than me out there. Like, I was singing his praises. I was saying he should be the number 1 pick in 2026. His stock was up here. He played a hell of a game against Michigan, and he just looked like he was that dude. I told Chris, like, the reason I believe in him is because I think he has that it factor, the ability to rise his level of play and make everybody around him better. And now you've seen the stock go down, and I mean, he broke his hand, man. Like, he went out there and had surgery and came back like 1 or 2 weeks later, and he's out there throwing the ball, doing everything he can. And Ben and myself were just talking about this today. He's really lost velocity, and he's not able to grip the ball as well. And so they're trying to find creative ways to keep the offense moving. But what makes that Oklahoma team run right now is that defense. And of course, anytime you have Brent Venables, who's the head coach for Oklahoma, anytime you have him calling a defense, they're going to be nasty out there. They're going to blitz the hell out of you. And that's going to be the key for them to win this game, like they did previously versus Alabama. They're going to ramp up that pressure, and we're going to have to see if that Alabama offensive line can withstand that.
And I'm not quite ready to completely put the dead asset brand on Jaden Ott, because I think he's got enough raw talent that there's a likelihood that he's going to land on an NFL training camp roster. And anything can happen in training camp, and there's a bit of buzz about these guys when they're doing XYZ. Who is that guy? Deneric Price, you remember him a couple years ago? There's always these running backs, the Chiefs running back. There's always these guys who make a buzz at camp. So I feel like there's a likelihood that he'll land on an NFL training camp roster, which means you get a sell window, right? If there's an opportunity to pivot and get a future pick for him because he's making buzz in the offseason, go ahead and do it. So I wouldn't say necessarily cut him from your Devy rosters right now, because at this point you've already invested, man. Just hold, unless you're really desperate for another spot. But yeah, it's been ugly for him. Mateer, yeah, I mean, he started the year as a Heisman guy, leading Heisman candidate for a little bit there, and we'll see where he comes from. I'm a big fan of Lenore Sellers because of his overall talent level, and because when I'm talking quarterbacks in Dynasty, I want a guy who has running ability, and Mateer definitely has running ability that would translate to the NFL. So we talk a lot about his missed tackles force last year. He's a very good runner. He makes a lot of people miss. So even if you're not the best passer, you got a couple years in the NFL where you're going to put up fantasy points if you're getting a starting job and you're that kind of player. So it's a shame that he's not doing as well as we expected this year, especially with this whole quarterback class falling off a lot compared to what we thought coming into the year. But I think he's got a good lock to, potentially still bear some fruit for you if you got him on Devy rosters. The other guy I like at Oklahoma is Deion Burks. I think he's a really good slot receiver.
Burks.
Yeah, he's a great separator. He's a little bit undersized, which is why he's probably only a slot guy at the NFL level. But if he lands in the right situation with the right coaching and the right quarterback, I think he's going to have an opportunity to produce. And he's still flying under people's radars a little bit, I think, in this upcoming class here. So it's going to ultimately depend a lot on where his draft capital lands. But I think he's got a very good shot to be drafted. And I think he's going to have an opportunity to make a role for himself in an NFL locker room.
Yeah, he started his career at Purdue, and then he transferred. So I did and then injuries kind of got in the way. Injuries got in the way before the year prior at Oklahoma, and then he came back this year. Started off hot, Oklahoma just kind of cooled off towards the middle, then the end. But I like me some Deion Burks. He's athletic as hell, and he can separate, like you just said. He's not the biggest guy, so you got to figure that out. But I think he definitely deserves to be on an NFL team. Another guy that I would like to speak on, who ended up transferring from your wonderful USC. We spoke on him a little bit, and that was with my Georgia Bulldogs. Zachariah Branch. Speak on the season that he's having, and it makes me happy. And yes, I won't say I very much will agree with anybody who said that for the most part, he catches the short routes. He's a screen tycoon, a screen king, if you will. But who can beat you downfield? They don't ask him to do that, but I think he has the ability to expand his route tree. But 73 catches, 744 yards, and 5 touchdowns. He's been one of the main playmakers for Georgia this year, of where they needed him, needed from him, whether it's been a punt returner or as a receiver. Coming from USC, where I don't think he would have got the same opportunity. Lemon obviously looked like he was taking his job, so I'm glad he did transfer. But speak on Branch and going into next year, he's somebody I'm going to be very much selecting. I've selected him in a bunch of Devy, or the 2 Devy drafts that I am in. But I would, even in regular Dynasty leagues, and once again, I could be biased, but I would be out there sending out a second or pushing or drafting him in a second because I
Man,
believe in his explosiveness.
man, please talk me off the ledge of Zachariah Branch, because that was my first ever Devy pick, and I've been disappointed. So talk me off the ledge. Is he an NFL player?
Ooh, man, who's gonna tell him?
I,
I don't want to be responsible for knocking Rocco over the ledge, man. I mean, some might call me a certified hater. Maybe I'm scorned. Maybe I'm jaded because when he came as a recruit out of high school to USC, we were super excited for this guy. I mean, you see the athletic ability every single Saturday. You see the speed. I mean, he just had a big time touchdown for you guys in the SEC championship game. He flashes that return ability, and you're like, wow, if we could just get him to do real wide receiver shit, he could be incredible. But unfortunately, I've been saying that since his freshman season. Like it goes back to USC. Lincoln Riley said, look, he was great for us as a freshman. He was a dynamic returner. We just want him to get a little better at doing some wide receiver stuff. And he put the challenge out there for him to do that. And then lo and behold, he transferred, right? Zachariah Branch transferred to Georgia. And I'm glad that he's being utilized by you guys. I still want to believe in him. I do worry about his translation to the NFL, because at the NFL, everybody's going to be fast, right? Those defenders run 4.3 40s too. Like there's some legit dogs out there that are they're going to stop you from doing what makes you so good in the SEC. And that's where my concern lies. The majority of his production comes behind the line of scrimmage. He doesn't run a full route tree, so he is limited. The good news is he could, of course, always develop it, and I am hoping and praying for the best. But if I had to put my money on it, I think like at best you're looking at a gadget guy at the NFL. If you can find a creative offensive coordinator, maybe he could be a decent flex play at times. But I think where he's going to make his money in the NFL is going to be as a kick returner, just because of that speed that he has, man. He's electric out there. This speed is no joke. Like, dude is crazy talented.
Yeah, I think his best case scenario on a career path is probably Tavon Austin, which obviously isn't great. Tavon was a lot of fun to watch at West Virginia.
Before his time.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about a guy like him, they ultimately won't be league winners or lineup starters. You might want to grab him on your best ball teams maybe, and he'll have a big week here and there. He'll take back some punts and some kicks, and he'll get in those gadget type plays and get a touchdown here and there. But he's not somebody who you're going to ever comfortably put in your lineup. I don't see a super high ceiling on him that way.
Who do you have more value on, Zachariah Branch or Eric Singleton Jr.?
I like Singleton. I think did he enter the transfer portal, or is there just rumbles about him transferring? I think he might have just entered the transfer portal or announced he's transferring. Yeah.
I thought his other college wide receiver buddy also went into the Devy Cam. I thought he also went into the portal as well, or was that fake news?
It was fake. That was the No 3 Sports. They've gotten me a couple times too, man. They have a whole
Jackson
team of
Arnold
reporters.
did, though, I think, right?
Yeah, Jackson Arnold did, and I think Singleton was another victim of Jackson Arnold. Like, the dude's just not a very good quarterback. He can't pass. He can't see the field. He can run. He can run a little bit, but I mean, he held down Burks and others at Oklahoma before he transferred, and so I think Singleton was just another victim of that. You had a Ferrari out there in Cam Coleman, and dude just can't hit him. Like that's your best vertical threat. Cam Coleman could potentially be on par with Jeremiah Smith in terms of just physical dominance out there. But I mean, for 2 straight seasons now, we've seen him struggle. He had Peyton Thorne the year before and Jackson Arnold most of this season. And I really hope that Cam Coleman gets the hell out of there, man, because he's so talented. He's so talented.
Another talented player in the college football playoffs right now, who happens to be a freshman and who also happened to play football not too far down the road from me, is Mr. Malachi Toney for the Miami Hurricanes. Let's talk a little bit about him, who is having honestly, if we keep it in the butt, him and Zachariah Branch are relatively around the same size, but you could say that Toney does better wide receiver stuff than Branch does as a freshman. Right now, Toney, 84 catches, 970 yards. And I will say, Miami does run a different offense than Georgia. Georgia is
Yeah.
more run heavy, whereas Carson Beck, that's right to you, buddy. Yeah, we don't like no Carson Beck talk over here. But they pass more than Georgia does. But let's talk about Tony real quick. And I think he has a lot to do with them being in the playoffs to begin with. How do y'all feel about him as a prospect, as a freshman, as a true breakout freshman at that? How much value do you put in those type of players when you're looking in Devy and then going forward for their college career?
I mean, anytime you have a guy that can break out at 17 years old, I'm paying attention. And week one, like he did turn 18, I think in September, but his first game, week one, was against Notre Dame. And that was a defense that was coming off a national championship appearance, a Marcus Freeman coach team. Like they play sound defense out there. They're very intelligent defense. And he was out there routing them up. Like he was routing them boys up. Of course, I know we don't want to talk about Carson Beck, but he does have that accuracy and he's able to put it on him consistently. Malachi Toney came one catch away from breaking the all-time single-season receiving record that was just broke last year by Restrepo. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, first season, he almost set a school record, and I just anticipate the growth to continue on. I mean, he's a guy that, everybody's talking about 2027. He's a guy that's going to be in the 2028 NFL draft class, and he's looking like he can be one of, if not the best wide receiver in that class, just based on what he's been able to do now. He's a total dog, man. Like he's got, the letters underneath his eyes that say like game ain't built on sympathy. Yeah. And I love that. Every time I see him out there play, he, like there's no like metric for this, but dude's got that dog in him, man. Like he's just out there and you see it. He ain't the biggest dude, like you said, like size wise, he's not that big, but he plays a lot bigger than you would think. And he's just so technically sound. He's an incredible route runner already. And more, you're starting to see these wide receivers come in as true freshmen straight out of high school. And they're doing nuanced shit out there in terms of route running. And it's so cool to see like the coaching and development at the high school level. Now these guys are able to come in because in this current NIL era, playing time is everything. If you can go out and get out there in the field and show what you've got, that's everything. So these guys are coming in and ready to go and contribute immediately. And he was the next in line. Like we had Ryan Williams the previous year. Now we have Malachi Toney. The thing that separates Malachi Toney from Ryan Williams are the drops. I haven't checked recently, but last I checked, he had 0 drops on the season.
No, Tony, you can tell on film. Tony's hands are way stronger than Ryan Williams.
Yeah.
Like Tony has that Steve Smith type of mentality where he don't care if you're bigger than him. He's going up there and he's snagging that thing. That's what I love about Tony. Yes, I think he's damn near. He might just be 5'10", but he plays like he's 6'2". The boy will go up there and get the ball. So I'm right there with you on Tony. And you do have to, with kind of what we've seen with Ryan Williams, you do have to watch them and hope they don't regress, the next following year. But I don't see that with Tony. And what could also balloon him up with me is there's been whispers that Lenore Sellers could transfer. And Miami's one of those colleges that he could be transferring to. I think that would be wonderful for the development of them both, honestly.
Yeah.
They've been really turning these quarterbacks around. That would be a lot of fun.
You feel me?
Yeah.
We saw what they did with Cam Moore. Lenore Sellers is I believe, if most would agree, gives you more athleticism than what Cam Moore is. Now, Cam Moore probably just is a better passer. Got him beat on that end. Yeah. But when it comes to an overall athlete, Lenore Sellers for UM it sounds like some fun to me. So if they can actually end up, getting him, and that would be wonderful for Tony. Honestly, I think the program is in good hands and what they've been able to build after being the laughing stock of the ACC and putting goddamn their ancestors of football to shame for several years. They're back into the good graces of ball. But I love watching Malachi Toney play. He's one of my favorite. We talked about Fernando Mendoza a bit earlier in the episode, but we didn't talk about the wide receivers that he has at his disposal. And I always mess up his last name, but Elijah Surratt?
I think it's Surratt, yeah.
Surratt.
or maybe it's Surratt.
Surratt, sir. Tomato.
Surratt flows better.
I think it's Surratt.
It's like Street Fighter.
And
It's
what
Surratt.
I like Surratt. I like Surratt's game, honestly. I think it's a very complete. It's nothing that's like blows you out of the water. I don't think he's going to be the most athletic tester when it comes out. But his game is so smooth to me, right? Would y'all agree to that one?
Yes, absolutely.
Smooth is a very good word for him. Yeah, I think he's got a nice little bit of smoothness. And I talked a little bit about Jeremy Bernard, being one of those go-to guys, and that's what you like to look at for these guys who aren't necessarily the most, top tier athletic profiles, those kind of guys. If they can build a nice rapport with a quarterback and they're doing the things, the extra work to build that relationship and find ways to get open, even when routes are breaking down and things like that, that's what you want to look for out of those guys, because they're going to always have a place in an NFL locker room if they can, be a reliable veteran. So we're talking about maybe not an extremely high ceiling for him, but I think he's a surefire thing to get drafted. And I think he's going to have an opportunity to make a name for himself. Maybe not immediate production at the NFL level, but one of those guys that, if we're talking maybe like the third round of a dynasty rookie draft, good guy to take a bet on.
Yeah, I think he's a day 2 guy in the NFL, probably closer to like the third round. But I mean, he's going to get pretty decent draft capital, I think. I mean, he's got 12 touchdowns on the season, and you see a lot of it comes in goal line situations where Fernando Mendoza's best throw that he has is that fade at the goal line, and he's always thrown it to Elijah Surratt. I think was it just this last game versus Ohio State? Wasn't it Surratt that had the big catch there? Like he can throw a deep fade, he could throw it right in those goal lines packages. He's had a couple games with multiple touchdowns in those situations. I think week 2 he had 3 touchdowns, and they were all like that. So he's a guy that I think NFL teams are going to like, because we've had such an influx of these smaller wide receivers, and now here's a guy who's 6'2" and he's got the jump ball ability. And I think that there's a role for that in the NFL right now, because there really hasn't been a lot of those guys coming out, and I think this draft class actually offers some wide receivers that have that skill set.
Question, and you this is for both you and Chris. Who do you have higher, KC Concepcion or Elijah Surratt?
For me, it's Concepcion. I'm curious to know what you think, Chris.
I have not updated my rankings lately. I had Surratt higher, but it's close. I need to do a little bit more work on Concepcion, because I feel like he's really started to evolve his game a little bit more, even in the last couple of weeks.
He's improved.
I think by the time it all shakes out, it's probably likely that I'll have Concepcion a little bit higher, but we're still in the process of breaking down all these guys for our rankings. We're running the FSAN rookie guide, so we're starting to really dive into a lot of these players. So I need to dive a little bit deeper on him, but very close. Both right now for me are like towards the back end of the second round, early third round type of scenario.
So I did update my rankings.
Okay.
And I moved Concepcion to a top 12 pick for me. I think he's a back end first. Just because I was able to watch some film that, like, I watched a lot of broadcasts, and I was like, he always stood out to me. But he was always like, there's this connotation when you say Concepcion that he's just this gadgety type of role player. And man, that couldn't be further from the truth. He's running a lot of outside alignments now, and they're taking deep shots down the field. And I've seen multiple occasions now where he beats the corner, and his quarterback, Marcel Reed, is layering the throw in between that corner and the safety that's bearing down. And dude is tough. Like, he's stretching out to make the catch, and he's taking the hit from the safety, and he's hanging on to the ball. I talked on another pod recently where that play was very reminiscent from a play that Emmanuel Sanders made a couple times for my Denver Broncos, where exact situation where he took a big hit, and he's just tough as nails out there making those throws. Plus he's fast. He's really explosive with the ball in his hands and making plays after the catch. And it's seen, like, I'm looking right here at PFF, 2.71 yards per route run on this season currently. He's got a 63% contested catch rate too. So, I mean, not a gadgety guy out there. He's winning in real outside alignments versus press coverages. I've seen a couple times. He has a nasty little speed release. The only like knock that I really have in his game is a couple times he has some like concentration drops. A couple weeks back, they were in the end zone. It was like he cooked the corner on the slant route. Like he sold the fade and cut inside for some easy work, wide open, and he just jumped for no reason. He just like jumped in the air and the ball kind of bumbled. He does that occasionally, but then he'll make an incredible catch along the sidelines while taking a hit. So I mean, very small knock in his profile, but he's everything in that offense. He really makes them go. He's been a big time riser for me. And I mean, you've seen the real NFL draft guys talk about him too. So I do pay attention to that.
And I actually do have cause we spoke on the tight ends just a tad bit with Keon Sadiq, but there's a couple of other guys that in the tight end class that I actually was keeping an eye on and have selected, like Max Clare. I honestly thought he was going to have a bigger year, but I mean, he's been there, but overall, I don't think he's been, and obviously for a good reason, he has been the focal point. And then you got other guys like Eli Stowers.
Yes.
Honestly, one of my favorite guys who I won't say he's had a regression of a year, but Joe Royer, the Cincinnati tight end, I actually do like him. Now, he has caught less balls, but he has more receiving yards or yards per catch than he does from last year. And he has a 73-yarder on his plate this year. He's one of more of my underrated tight ends I'm looking for. He's an older tight end prospect for sure, but just the Cincinnati offense in general, basura, Swiss cheese, they kind of suck. So I think Joe Warrior is a diamond being wasted on a good team. But are there, like Michael from Rocco brought up earlier, Michael Trigg, are there other tight end prospects in 2026 that you're looking at that could help a fantasy team?
Now, admittedly, tight end is the position I probably looked at the least. I've only looked at a handful of these guys so far, and as we were going through the names for the rookie guide, I listed a whole bunch of them, and I'm like, I really need to start digging into these because tight end's just not a fun position for the most part, right? Like, no matter how much we like these guys, there's only a handful on any given week that are going to produce numbers that are going to make you happy, and fewer than that are going to be doing it on a week-to-week basis. However, there are some guys that I feel like warrant a little bit more attention. I talked a little bit about Tanner Koziel from Houston. I think he's boy. Yeah, I think he's a good, reliable receiver. And when you're talking about tight end, you want a guy who's going to be just open for your, right there in the middle of the field. Nice, especially if you got a younger quarterback who isn't, quite as advanced yet, needs a nice little out. If a guy like that's going to get open in the middle of the field for you and you have a pretty easy dump off to him, I think he's going to have a role in NFL offenses in the right scenarios. Another guy who I haven't done nearly enough work on, but I stamped my name on him to start breaking down is Justin Jolly out of NC State.
That is a name.
That's Cesar Romero's guy.
Justin Jolly is on my list to take a look on. At.
He's good.
He is very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
good.
he's a talented tight end. He's very athletic. I think he's gonna sneak up a lot of people's rankings here as we get closer to the NFL draft.
Yeah, and I could also be biased on this, and also think he was just underutilized at Georgia. Oscar Delp, I think, is going to come out being a better pro than he was a college player.
I hope so, man. That's somebody that I really believed in. I mean, he took over right after Brock Bowers left, right? Everybody was looking at that, and he's got all the talent in the world. He's heavily recruited. He also got Lawson Lucky over there too. So, I mean, two pretty good tight ends there. I'm with you, Chris. Like, Justin Jolly is a guy that I'm really getting excited for. Probably because I've been talking to Coach a lot more, and he's an NC State fan. I don't know if you guys saw the clip. I might have to send it to you, but you remember the old Madden clip, the Greg Jennings, put the team on my back though.
Yeah, put the team on the back.
Down the sideline.
Yeah. Broken leg.
He literally had that play. Like I'll send you guys the clip. It was hilarious. He's limping down the sideline, holding his leg and getting in for the score. But it's so funny. But he's a lot of fun, man. He's pretty fast. He's a good route runner. really good hands. Like, he's a guy that I think is going to go to the combine. And I think that that's when people are really going to start paying attention to him and going, hey, you know what? This guy from NC State is pretty damn good. Let's delve more into his film. Of course, coming from UConn before, like, he's already played his 4 seasons. His production profile doesn't look the best, but then again, throughout the country, tight end is kind of like one of those dead zones, like Chris was saying.
Mhm.
So for us, kind of like a game theory that we always preach is we start not paying attention, but we start valuing tight ends a little more the closer that they get to the draft. For me and Devy, I don't really like to draft tight ends at all, really, just because it's the only position that's a little more volatile than the quarterback position. I mean, you even see when they make it to the NFL, we're holding on for years, like Ben Sennett, and hoping that they take off eventually after holding for years. Of course, you got the guys like Brock Bowers who are just different and come out right away. Tyler Warren, I think Colston Loveland, all those guys we saw, being able to do what they're doing now because of the draft capital that they got. But I mean, for the most part, tight end's kind of a wasteland, even in Dynasty. A lot of leagues that I play in are 0.75 or up because just to kind of make them relevant on your lineups.
And that made me think of this question where I seen from this past Devy, actually. Does that mean because I seen saw people doing this, taking Eli Stowers in the first round of Devy drafts? Do you think he's that type of player to be taken in the first round, or you don't
Not
see him?
something we would advocate ever, but there's a couple of those guys, like Stowers, who get that hype and then do kind of follow through with it. Like, he's made a great name for himself. He's probably going to be a top 3 tight end taken in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
So it's not something that I would advocate for. We talk about the volatility of quarterback and tight end, especially. So you don't want to waste those high profile picks on a tight end. But I think he's stable enough in value that he's going to make a name for himself at the NFL as well. It feels like there's a lot of old tight ends right now in the NFL. So
there are.
Even if we have to wait for a little bit, that's why I don't necessarily mind when a guy like Jolly, who's a little bit of an older prospect, but if you're talking about you've transferred, you played at UConn and then you went to NC State, that means you've got more experience playing under different offensive coordinators. You've got more, schemes and playbooks under your belt. So you're getting a little bit more pro ready when you're doing that kind of thing. And reality is that if you're coming out early as a tight end, you have to be an absolute freak to be, making any name for yourself as a rookie in the NFL. So a lot of these guys, as you mentioned, are going to take time. You're going to draft them later in your dynasty drafts, and you're going to say, well, like I have a lot of Terrence Ferguson because I like Terrence Ferguson, but he's just sitting there right now waiting for his opportunity to strike.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just because of the tight end position. It's a lot tougher to play than some of these other positions, especially like running back, where you just plug in and do your thing out there. So I'm not necessarily going to advocate for taking round 1, but I think Eli Stowers is a good tight end, and he's probably top 3 for me, I would say, at this point. As we
stay away from tight end in your rookie draft. So is receiver the top position to target in Devy drafts early?
Typically, yeah. I think we try to build a foundation of wide receivers because even when you have scenarios like Ryan Williams where you took or even Cam Coleman, right? You took him very early. The talent is still there and there's still that mega upside. And realistically, these are all lottery tickets when you're talking about a Devy player. So you want to just put your best bets out there, knowing that the risk and reward is going to be there's a high chance of risk and a decent chance of reward, right? So when you build through wide receiver, I like to build my dynasty rosters through wide receiver because they're going to hold the most value year over year, and you're always going to have misses. No matter what you do, no matter how smart you are, you could be the best Devy player in the world. No matter what you do, you're going to have misses. So you might as well put your stamp on these guys at the wide receiver position, especially where there's a lot less of a volatility on a year-to-year basis. Because go back and look at our second episode, the RB tiers that we did in the offseason. We talked about a pre-show, Mekhi Hughes, right? We both thought Mekhi Hughes going to Oregon was going to be awesome, and then he hasn't even seen the field. And I think he's transferring again. I don't know if he's officially announced that. So it's tough because even a position like that where you feel like, all right, if you have the talent, it's going to produce. Things can break wrong, and then suddenly from an RB perspective, you're basically a dead asset, right? Whereas wide receiver, you could have a rough year or two and still have a chance to, your junior year, your senior year, your fifth year, whatever, make a play for the NFL.
Listen, man, I had one of my favorite pet cats. Eric Rivers Jr. transferred to Georgia Tech, and he was my player. He was one of my favorites before he transferred over, and then he goes to Georgia Tech, who offense, honestly, I don't think it doesn't gel with his overall play. They don't, yeah, no, it just kind of pissed me off now that I'm thinking about it overall, because he's one of the player that he's more undersized, but he could have been or have in the passing offense can show out. But I won't get too far deep in the weeds. I do have a ending of the show question for you both, and appreciate you wonderful gentlemen jumping on Fourth and Fantasy and have you on. We got to get you on more, especially after the season
Sure.
and when as the draft process comes on. Definitely love to get more of your insight. But the last question I have for you both is, who do you have winning the Heisman this year?
I think it's definitely
Fernando.
Mendoza's, right?
Yeah, it has to be. I think he had his Heisman moment against Ohio State. I mean, that was the giant slayer out there. I mean, I recognize and fully put out there that Indiana was also undefeated. But I mean, when you look at the talent levels on those teams, it was clearly in favor of Ohio State. And it's like, how are you going to beat this team? Through heart, through grit, and through pure willpower. And I think that that's what Fernando Mendoza embodies. Are his stats on par with some of the past Heisman winners like Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow? No, they're not. But you can't deny what he's done to that program. I mean, a perfect season, Big Ten championship. Those things do and still matter. And so I think because of that, I have him winning the Heisman. I think we talked about it with Chev last week. Like, that was his Heisman moment. That was his Heisman moment out there, that some of the big passes that he was making. And I can't shake it out of my head. Like, he might not be the most elite, he might not be the most talented quarterback out there, but because of the moxie and everything that he brings, he's going to be able to, he's going to be able to go to a bad team and turn it around. I think that he's a program changer just by his pure attitude. And so I think he's going to win the Heisman.
Yeah, you summed it up well, man. I mean, you just look at the entire season, it all falls back on the quarterback eventually, right? And even when you're only putting up 13 points, you still beat Ohio State in a championship game. You let them do an undefeated season. Statistically, none of these guys, it's kind of a down year for the Heisman overall, all these finalists. I think it's definitely his to lose. Even, my boys, we're obviously not a giant this season, despite the number 2 preseason ranking, but we almost beat them in that game. And then he had that beautiful pass. And I know a lot of that was Omar Cooper Jr.'s doing, but amazing pass to put his receiver in a position to make a play that ended up being one of the best catches in the entire season of football. So he's just come up time and time again in all of these big moments, and he really deserves it.
Yeah, I love the reason. I love the answers from both of y'all. And as one of the early Fernando Mendoza Hive leaders, I would like to take my lap around.
Little victory lap. Yep.
I was out there talking Garrett Nussmeyer and all those boys, and you're like, what about Fernando Mendoza? And I was like, I don't know. Look, I give you all the flowers, man. You were the first I heard in our circle talking about him. So big ups to you, man.
Appreciate it. And we appreciate y'all once again jumping on the show. We definitely got to get y'all on. Definitely got to come on the Devy Dojo as well whenever y'all want us on. And we could talk ball whenever, however. I love talking about college football, NFL, you name it, I'm there. But let the audience know where they can find y'all wonderful gentlemen.
Yeah, so we're going to go back to recording every week now, putting out the video content, but we are under the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. Just you could search Devy Dojo on YouTube. My Twitter is at Empire Elite FF, and I do have a link tree with everything that we're working on. We got links to the YouTube, links to the podcast forums. We also have a free Substack where we've been putting out weekly staggered content, at least a minimum of 3 articles every week on top of the video content. We're going to have to scale that back now because we are also doing the 2026 Dynasty Rookie Guide for FSAN. Chris and myself from the Devy Dojo are spearheading that project. Very, very excited about that. We got a really good team there, including Chev and Ben McCown, who's all in our circle there as well. So
Mhm.
we're all kind of under that umbrella with FSAN, and we're given an opportunity to go out there and do that. So very excited. Like the best is yet to come from the Devy Dojo. We're just getting started.
Absolutely, yeah. And you can find me at Chris the Card Man on Twitter. You can find the Devy Dojo at Devy Dojo on Twitter. If you prefer to listen to podcast audio, we're just Devy Dojo on any of those platforms. And then if you want to check out the YouTube where we have beautiful looking graphics that I produce, we have those on, as mentioned, the Fantasy Football Advice Network YouTube.
Hell yeah, man! And I love that story because it kind of reminds me of both me and Rocco's where we started, and you kind of just you kind of just trying to find your space, your audience, and then you find a good group of good people that you could say that you can learn from, and then your community grows. You start to learn more. Hell, listening and watching y'all videos have helped me grow my Devy knowledge, and I still continue to grow my Devy knowledge. So thank y'all for doing the wonderful work that y'all do, because Devy is very much underappreciated when it comes to fantasy football. It's very underappreciated in the grand scheme of the big dogs of like Sleeper and ESPN. Of they just not a lot of integration for Devy information. So you got to really go out there and get it. And y'all bring it right into the masses. So I appreciate all the work that y'all do for the community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Rocco, do you have anything for the honors before we get out of here, big dog?
No, man, this has been great. Devy, Devy, everybody forgets about Devy until your rookie drafts come around, and then everybody's cramming, a couple months before the NFL draft and into the rookie drafts that come right after the NFL draft. These guys have been scouting it for years by the time you walked into that room, into scouting these rookies. So that's something to think about when you talk Devy. And I got to get better at it. I know I gotta, I'm a crammer. I'll say that. I'm a crammer, but I aspire to be more like you guys, and know these guys from their freshman, sophomore, up until they're drafted. So man, it's been a great conversation. I've enjoyed the knowledge that you guys have brung, and yeah, let's do it again soon.
And to that, and one last note, to that wrinkle, what you just said, Rocco, from where you said they watched from freshmen, I think that makes it a little bit more meaningful when you see the player pop up. For me, that's a George Pickens moment for me. I've
Yep.
watched that boy since his freshman year of Georgia up until him balling out this year. You always knew the talent was there. You always
Yep.
knew from on film that he could, in the right situation, right opportunity, be the star that is there. He just needs that chance. And that's from you hit it right there on the head, Rocco. From seeing what they do as freshmen to actually seeing that talent bloom up, that is what Devy is all about, honestly, for me.
Yes.
But
I
Absolutely.
love
Yeah.
that.
appreciate y'all, fellas. Well, thank y'all for tuning in again. This is Fourth and Fantasy. Catch us this Sunday at 9 o'clock for the morning rush for your start and sit questions as we move on to for most of us, there's a couple of weird people that start their playoffs in week 14. But real official playoffs start week 15 for the fantasy playoffs. Let's get those dubs. Let's get more championship. Once again, I am Honcho, and this is my guy.
Siriaco, call me Rocco.
And we are your fantasy playbook to more championship wins. And Rocco, let the people know where we the land of.
We are a fantasy football podcast for Dynasty Sickos, by Dynasty Sickos, and maybe even some Devy Sickos. Let's get it.
And make sure you, or hell, all your friends, come play League Champ, where you can win a free NFL jersey. Right now on screen, you're looking at 3 that have won. Dustin, we're gonna get you on there, play. Even if I gotta, we
Yeah, I
gotta
gotta get
flip
on
the
there, man.
script. Even if we gotta flip the script, player, we're gonna get you on there.
Hey,
But thank you all that tune in, that support the show. We got more in store, and here is League Champ as we go out.